What's up, guys? Here in the Philippines on a small island called Apple Island, famous for its turtles, giant sea turtles. Just went snorkeling, and I just wanted to take a couple minutes to film part of a YouTube video on why you should become a digital nomad. There are so many reasons, guys, but I'm gonna cover them as I go island hopping through the Philippines one by one. So let's start off with number one. Number one, you don't have to wait until life is over to have all these cool experiences. I mean, in the West, they're kind of sold the idea that you just save all those fun experiences for retirement. You know, you work hard from the time that you're 18 until you're 65. You hope that you get that pension, old age security, and then you can retire, and then you can do what you want when you're 65. And when you're living as a digital nomad, you don't have to do that. I'm just gonna have a nice little seat over here. This little basketball court. And just a little sidebar here, guys. This island only has electricity for 4 hours a day. Very small. But yeah, anyways. So you don't have to wait until you're old and gray to have all these cool experiences. If you want to go snorkeling in the Philippines, I didn't even take a day off for this, I had just been working in the Philippines, doing my regular job. Everything I need to do. Not a real material loss in performance, I would say. And then I knew I wanted to come over here and check out this little island off the coast of Dumaguete in the Philippines, and I didn't have to take a day off. This is kind of just normal at this point. And throughout the 2 years that I've been doing this, I've gone to Colombia, Peru, the Philippines, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Indonesia, Korea, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, and I'm probably forgetting one or two countries, to be honest. But the point is, life is just so much fun, and you just don't have to put it on hold when you're able to work from wherever you want, basically. And just to really drive home the point, there's an old parable, and I'm totally gonna butcher it, but I'm gonna go for it anyways, just because it really illustrates the point. But there was a businessman who was visiting coast of Mexico, a small fishing town, and he meets this fisherman, and the fisherman just sitting there having fun fishing on his little boat. And the businessman says, "Wow, this is great, you should start a business." And then the fisherman says, "And then what?" "Well, and then you can buy another boat." "And then what?" "Well, and then you can go to the US and raise capital and start a bigger boat company." "And then what?" "Well, then you can basically integrate your manufacturing and your distribution. You can build a little fishing empire." "And then what?" "Well, and then you can make a ton of money and and then you can go retire and spend your days fishing." And then the fisherman, obviously says, "Well, that's what I do now." What's the point of building that giant empire if the end result is just that I'm going to be at the back on the coast of Mexico fishing and, enjoying my life? And that's kind of what it's like to be a digital nomad. It's like, why work so hard for 60 years putting off all that gratification of doing what you actually want to do and traveling, when regular life allows you to do all those things anyways? Snorkeling in the Philippines is not expensive. It's not even hard to get out here. The only tough part is that people have trouble with is getting the time off of work. And when they do get time off of work, it's for like a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. In Canada, it's 2 weeks. And I think in Europe, they get 6 weeks or something cool. But anyways, you just don't have to put off having those experiences in favor of some old time. Traveling doesn't get better when you're old, guys. Life doesn't really get better when you're old. Same with sex. If you think you're gonna put off having sex until you're 65 when you're retired, that's just dumb, So that's number one. And check out this sky. All right, guys. And the next thing that's awesome about being a digital nomad is just how much money you can save, to be honest. So everywhere I've been, I've averaged about 600 Canadian dollars a month in rent. So what is that in American? That's about $450 a month US in rent on average. And that's usually for either a hotel or Airbnbs, sometimes living with roommates here and there, but really depends on where you live
where you choose. Obviously, this whole point about saving money really depends on what your income is and where you want to live. But in general, you can definitely find somewhere that your money goes much, much further. So if you want to live in the Philippines, where I am, for example, the average, like basically minimum wage here is 300 Canadian dollars. It's 12,000 pesos, Filipino pesos per month, which is about $300 Canadian, which is like what, 220, 230 American. And obviously a lot of people make more than that. And you know, some people make less than that. And you know, like if you come here, you're not obviously gonna spend that little, you know, you're gonna have a hard time living like a fully like a local. But it just goes to show that like if you want to live in the Philippines or Thailand or Vietnam or Colombia, you can easily do so with about 2,000 Canadian dollars per month, maybe 1,500 USD, easily. And if you make more than that, well, you're about to save a lot of money, which is awesome. And you can compare that to, you know, spots in the US, spots in Canada. You know, I spend about a little bit more than I used to spend on groceries in Canada. I used to spend about $450, $500 a month in groceries and food. And now I spend $600 Canadian a month on food, and I don't cook a single meal. I eat out 3 times a day. I get coffee at Starbucks or whatever the equivalent here. I never cook, and I spend $600 a month on food. 20 Canadian a day. About 15 USD. So the reality is that your money will go so much further. It's not even funny. And you can really choose. So if you want to live somewhere where, you know, it's super cheap, you know, go to Vietnam. Go to Peru, is super cheap. Colombia. Even Thailand in some parts. If you want to spend a little bit more, you know, obviously there's like Eastern Europe, there's other parts of Asia, Latin America. Yeah, hell, you can even go to like Western Europe if you wanted to. But the point of it is just to say that there's always something that's awesome in your price range. And if you just have a mediocre income of like $4,000 or something like that, like that's below average in the States. But if you don't have to be in a certain spot for that, to make that money, and you can just be wherever you want, you could probably save half of that living in Vietnam, for example. Not cooking a single meal, living in like a nice hotel. And yeah, I mean, if I wanted to live in $800 US in a month, I could. I would just go to Vietnam. I would spend $10 a night in a hotel in a place like Nha Trang or Da Nang. And I'd get some old lady to cook me meals. And I'd make my own coffee. And I could easily live there for like maybe 900, 800 USD a month. So it's super possible. And yeah, this is one of my favorite things. I have like I'm very diligent with tracking my expenses. I have a big spreadsheet, a Google sheet, and I track every dollar I spend and earn in there so I can tell you exactly what I spent and made in each month and each location I've been to over the last 2 years. But you know, breaking all that down would be a subject for another video. For right now, let's just continue talking about things I like about being a digital nomad. Let's get on to the next one. Alright guys, I'm lost on a little trail. I saw a sign that said a view deck, and I don't know why, but I thought there'd be an actual deck, and instead I'm just on this little mountain on top of Apple Island. But let me tell you about the next thing. So the next one is that basically being a digital nomad just allows you to have this sense of freedom that is just so hard to find in everyday life. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, most people just live lives that are just anything but freedom. You know, you get a mortgage, you get a car payment, you have responsibilities, a job, you have a car, like you just have kids, you have just all these responsibilities. And while responsibility is also like a great thing for growth and helping you rise to the occasion, it doesn't exactly stimulate freedom. And when you're a digital nomad, you can basically just go wherever you want, almost whenever you want. I mean, personally, I book my hotels like 2 days in advance. You know, I booked this tour yesterday. I'm flying to Korea on Friday in about 6 days, staying there for like 12 days at least. But I have no idea what's happening after that. You know, I could be anywhere. I'm just completely open. And it's just really hard to get that kind of lifestyle in everyday life. But as a digital nomad, I mean, you can just, the world is your oyster. I mean, I could go back to Latin America, I could stay in Asia, I could go check out Africa, Turkey, whatever kind of simulates my mind at the moment is an option. And it's completely awesome. And beyond that, I mean, you just have the freedom to kind of be whoever you want to be in every location. I mean, like when you're in the same spot in your hometown and you decide you want to change your identity, you're going to encounter friction because people don't want to see you go from, you know, let's just throw out an example. If you're like Brad the football player, now you're trying to rebrand yourself as Brad the intellectual or the scientist, whatever it happens to be. If you're making like a big personality 180, it's going to be very hard, and people are going to kind of hold you to that old version of yourself. You know, if you're used to be like an alcoholic and now you're going sober, or you're becoming, I don't know, like a Muslim or something, people are going to say, oh no, you're an alcoholic, or whatever the example looks like for your life. But they're going to hold you to that old self, that old version of yourself. And it's just kind of hard to escape that. But as a digital nomad, you can just roll into any destination and just say, hey, you know, I'm changing it now. Now I do this. Now I like this hobby. Now I'm this kind of person. Now I'm more spontaneous, whatever that happens to be. And for me, I love that kind of freedom. And it's, you know, one of the things I like the most about my life right now. And it just trickles into so many other facets of your life. You know, even choosing where you want to live long term. Freedom to choose what tax rate you want to pay. Freedom to choose what you want your lifestyle to look like, where you want to spend your time, how you want to spend your time, where you want your friends to be. You know, it's just something that you can't really experience unless you're living this kind of lifestyle. And yeah, it's a freedom that people have not had until like the last couple of years. Because when you think about it, you could have lived abroad. Like if this is 19th century, 20th century, you know, you can go to Japan and work there, but you're gonna have to work in the local economy. Or you can work for like a, you know, like an American firm in Japan. But you're always working locally. You know, you're never doing the same thing across the world exactly. But as a digital nomad, I mean, you have just complete freedom to just, you know, you can do the exact same thing job-wise. The exact same thing, whether you're on a beach, whether you're in Bali, whether you're in a cafe in Mexico, or whether you're honest, like, you know, on an island in Greece. It doesn't matter. You have so much freedom. And for me, that's been one of my favorite things. Let me see if I got a nice view for you guys. Yeah, so there's all the little boats. We were snorkeling, hanging out with the turtles here. Let's move on to the next one. And we're back. So the next cool thing about being a digital nomad is the dating. And that's for 3 reasons, guys. So number one, you get to find people that look the way that you like. So obviously there's a lot of different ethnicities and types of genetics around the world. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with being attracted to a certain type. So whether your thing is Asian people, you know, white people, Latin American people, African people, black, there's a lot of different types around the world. And chances are, you know, there's a place out there that has more of whatever it is that you like. And so obviously if you're into Asian girls, why fight over the handful that you'll find in like Wisconsin when you can go to Asia and there's, you know, I think 1.5 billion people. So what is it, a billion women? You know, there's just way more options. And that goes for everything. You know what I mean? So whatever type that you like, there's always going to be a place with more of them. And, you know, it just makes it easy. And so the second reason is that basically you can go to a place that has the same values that you like. So if you're the kind of person that wants a traditional partner that likes the traditional gender roles, you know, for women, that would be more like the cooking and cleaning, nurturing their partner. For men, you know, it's the guy who's going to go out there and, you know, do whatever he needs to do to bring home the money to support his family, who's going to protect you, who's going to provide you with that sense of security. You know, there's countries out there that really have those gender roles, and then there's countries where everything are more 50-50, like Europe or even North America. And so if you want a partner that's traditional, if you want a partner that's modern, you can go out and find those easily in other parts of the world. But that's one of the nice things about being a digital nomad, is it allows you to go date with the people that you actually want to date. And the third reason, which real quick before we get into that, just want to show you a little bit of the surroundings. I'm currently on Sikihor Island. I'm in at a spot called, I'm going to butcher the name, but I'll throw it on the screen here. And the waterfall is just beautiful. There's like 2 of them. People are just swinging on ropes. It's just an awesome time. And it's beautiful. Probably the number one thing to do on this island, if I were to recommend anything. But anyways, the third thing is that you can go to a place where people value you more. So right now, in the West, I'm gonna say particularly, I don't know much about the East, but there's kind of like a pushback against the average guy. You know what I mean? So if you're just an average guy there, chances are it's gonna be harder for you to date. I think I saw a statistic that said that I think it's something like 90% of premium Bumble users that are women in the States exclude guys who are below 6 feet. And the average height is like 5'9". So that means that, the average guy is being excluded from the average girl's search results in dating apps. And that just kind of shows you what the sentiment is in the West, which I'm Western, so that's what I'll talk about first and foremost. But there's just kind of the sentiment that if you're average, if you don't have anything extra to bring to the table, then they don't need you. A little bit, to be honest. You'll see people talking about, oh, I want a guy with 6 feet, I want a guy who makes 6 figures, but only a fraction of men actually meet these requirements in the West. And what about the rest of people? Well, the rest of people still have something to offer. It's just that sometimes you have to leave the context and go to a place where you're actually appreciated a little bit more. And this is probably true for the East as well. But yeah, I mean, you can go to, say I'm in the Philippines right now. I looked at this earlier, and if you want to be in the 1% in the Philippines in terms of household wealth, so that's how much money you have in the bank, all you need is about $50,000 US. So if you have one average year salary from an American job saved up, because the average is like $50,000, if you just save up 1 year's worth of salary, you're in the 1% in the Philippines, and you'll have that kind of treatment when you get here. If you wanted to be in the 1% in the US, it's going to be like $300,000, which is just very high standard. And that's not to say that you shouldn't date in the West, or that if you go abroad, then it's just because you couldn't get a partner where you come from. I think that's just such a ridiculous line of thinking. And sometimes I see that online, as people will say, oh, well, if you go to the Philippines or Colombia and you find a wife, then it's just because you couldn't find a girl in your country. And it's like, okay, so these people must be the people who are spending full price at the store when you can get it for half price down the street because, for example, if you move out of your house to go find a house that has it looks better, it's more comfortable, and it's less expensive, is that because you couldn't afford the first house? No, it's because you saw value somewhere else, and the other house is valuing you more. They value your money more. You can get more for what you pay. And that's exactly what it's like in the dating world, guys. There's a place out there that will value you more. Chances are, I don't know where you come from, but that's pretty much true for the whole world. And so if you just pick up and you go somewhere else, you'll get more for your money, and you're more for who you are, for your personality. And you really see that in places like the Philippines or Colombia. Like, people are really friendly. They look at you in high regard. And it's not true for everybody. And unfortunately, it's not exactly equally distributed. I think that white people get it a little bit more than people of other ethnicities. But it is, to a certain extent, distributed. And even if you're, Asian or something like that, and you go to Europe, you're still going to be, a bit of a rarity. People are going to find that attractive. And I think that I saw that in Sweden, they have the highest percentage of Thai wives outside of Thailand, because Swedish guys marry so many Thai women that there's a huge community of them. And that just goes to show it's those Thai women are being highly valued outside of Thailand, whereas in Thailand, they might just be another average Thai woman. And so that's what I'm going to leave you here. I got one more point, but first, let's just appreciate some more of this nature. Alright guys, my time on Sikihor has come to an end. Just wanted to make a quick end of the video. The last thing that I think is awesome about being a digital nomad is just basically that you get to choose what your life looks like. If you want to live in the city, if you want to live in pretty much anywhere you want, who you want to spend your time with, what lifestyle you want to live with, if you want to live in the countryside. You just have all of those choices, and it feels like you're breaking away from the script. It feels like you're not exactly doing what everybody else is doing, and you really get to customize it for you and know that everything that your life looks like is because you made it that way. So that's the end of the video. If you want to learn more about how to be a digital nomad yourself, check out my website, hustledirectory.com. I'll throw the link in the description. Other than that, guys, if you got some value out of this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Do it for you guys. Now I gotta go hop on this little ferry right here and go back to Dumaguete. So see you in the next one. Take care.